home, your plans give me hope in the future. I feel like I'm living that plan out. I feel like the things that happen to us in life, they're not designed to stop us. They're designed to reposition us so we can come in contact with what God really has for us. And so everything that I do, man, I do it to honor God because I feel like God gave me a second chance at life. And so I feel like I'm doing what God put me on this earth to do.
You see, my mother had me when she was 15 years old, right? Over on the east side of Atlanta, we came up in this neighborhood by the name of Kirkwood, drug dealer on every corner, gang members in the neighborhood, 2-bedroom home, 14 people. Used to sleep on the floor. Got the opportunity to sleep in the bed one time out of the week. There was 6 of us in the bed, 3 at the foot, 3 at the head. And I came up with this dream pretty quick. I said, man, I want to go to the NFL because I had 8 uncles in that house, all 8 of which are still going in and out of prison. And so pretty quick, I said, man, I want to go to the NFL. So I went to my big cousin tomorrow one night. I said, man, listen, I want to go to the NFL. So we got to work for this thing. So the thing we're going to do every night, we're going to be patient. We're going to engage in consistent action. Every night, we're going to race light pole to light pole, no shooting. So every night, we would get out in the street, race light pole to light pole. One night, a coach came down the street. He signed me and my cousins up for organized sports, right? First time being in organized sports. We get in organized sports. The thing was, after practice, everybody would leave to go home. And I always had to sit on the bench and wait on my mother because she worked that way. And so when my mother would show up in the park, it would be about 10 o'clock, 10:30 at night. So I'm sitting there, and when my mother would pull up, she drove an old Regal, hubcaps off the car, seats torn up, the car was all beat up. And she would pull up in the park 10:30 at night. I would jump off the bench. I would sprint over to my mother. I would say, Mom, if you don't mind, can you please sit back in your car and turn on your car lights? I have to do some extra drills. I have to go to the NFL so you never have to work another day in your life. And I knew my mother was tired. And every night, my mother would sit back in that car, and those car lights would hit that field. And he had a 7-year-old kid doing backpedaling drills, running sprints, running laps, chasing his dream to go to the NFL. But just beyond those car lights, I could always connect with my mother's eyes. So it made me dig a little bit deeper. It made me push myself a little bit further. It made me work a little bit harder. It created a certain level of sweat equity in what I was doing. It created a certain level of pride. And so I went to Crim High School, one of the lowest performing public schools in the whole state of Georgia. Dropout rate higher than the graduation rate. People didn't go to college. I went to Crim my first day. I walked through the doors. The metal detector cop said, "What's your plan, little man?" I said, "My plan is to go D1. He said, "Nah, you'll probably end up in cell block D1. I said, "Nah, you got the wrong guy." He said, "Nah, you'll probably end up in cell block D1. I said, "Nah, you got the wrong guy." After my freshman year, my mother and father both came to me and they said, "Inky, we're transferring you from this place. You got a scholarship at Tucker High School." They said, "All you have to do is come and play your next 3 years. They guarantee you a scholarship to Georgia." I said, "Please, leave me at one of the lowest performing public schools in the whole state of Georgia. I can get a scholarship from this place. Son, nobody goes to college from there. Please, let me stay here. I can make it from this place." They transferred me anyway. First football game, tore the ligaments in my ankle, out for the season, ended up in a wheelchair. Went back to my parents, "Will you please transfer me back to one of the lowest performing public schools in the whole state of Georgia?" My pastor said, "Inky, you really want to go there?" I said, "Please transfer me back there. I need to go back there." And so the summer going into my senior year, we got blessed with a new coach. He came to me. I was done with football. He said, "Man, please come and work out for me. Just do one workout for me." I said, "Okay, coach, I'll come out. I'll work out." I ran a 40-yard dash. I did some cone drills. He came up to me after the workout. He said, "Son, what college do you want to go to?" I said, "Man, I just want to go D1. He said, "No, you're not hearing me, son. What college do you want to go to?" I said, "Man, I just want to go D1. He said, "After the first couple of games, we'll put together a tape and we'll see what happens." After the first 2 games, I had 9 touchdowns. It was all she wrote from there. And I'll never forget the day the University of Tennessee came in and a coach took a chance on me. He sat down with me and he said, "Son, I want to offer you a full scholarship to the University of Tennessee." It was so crazy. I responded and I told him, "I'm coming." And he laughed. He said, "Son, I don't even think you understand how the whole process works." I said, "No, I don't think you understand." I said, "You're talking to a kid that comes from a 2-bedroom home, 14 people. You're talking to a kid that every morning when I caught the bus, I would race to be the first one at the bus stop, and I would be standing there shaking my book bag and my jackets out to make sure there were no roaches and rats. So when I tell you I am coming, I am coming. You don't even have to waste the university's money. I don't have to see the campus. I don't have to see the city. You offer me a scholarship, I'm coming." He said, "Yeah, Ink, but I still want you to take an official visit." I agreed. I went up on a Friday night. I'll never forget, they took me to Calhoun's on the River. It's a restaurant in Knoxville, Tennessee. We come out, we got a host, right? And so the job of a host, they're supposed to show you a great time on campus, take you to parties, make you fall in love with the place. And so I come out with my host, and he said, "Ink, there's a sorority party, there's a barbecue, and there's a basketball game. Which one would you like to go to?" I said, "Man, if you don't mind, can you take me to my hotel?" We pull up to the hotel. I'm getting out of the car. He said, wait, are you sick? I said, no, I'm not sick. You see, what my host didn't understand, that night at the Marriott, that was my first time standing in bed by myself. Think I cared about a sorority party? Think I cared about a barbecue or a basketball game? But the next day when I saw that coach, I thanked him, and I still do this until this day when I see him. I said, thank you, not only for changing my life, but changing a whole generation's life that you don't even know you touched. So when I got back to Kirkwood, I went to everybody that told me I wouldn't make it. I went to that cop in that lunchroom and I said, I told you, you had the wrong guy. So now everybody's response was, Ink, why did you fight so hard to come back to Crim High School? You had a guaranteed scholarship across town at one of the top programs. Why did you fight to come back where the dropout rate was higher than the graduation rate, son? Why did you fight to come back to this place? And I said, you guys are missing a boat. And the thing that people didn't understand, the reason I had that decision and choice to make, it wasn't about Inky Johnson. Every night I slept on that floor with those roaches and rats. I had 3 little cousins that slept on that same floor as me. And you know what happened? When I went to college, you know what all 3 of them, I was the first one in my family to go to college. You know what all 3 of my little cousins did? Man, I don't have to sell dope. I don't have to join a gang. I don't have to end up in prison. I don't have to end up dead. All 3 of them got up off the same floor, went to college and graduated, and now they serve in the Army. That is why I went back to Crim High School.
How often do you think about your poop? Some people think about their poop a lot.
If every decision and choice you make is just about you, at a certain point, you're going to hit something that's a lot tougher than you, and it's going to make you quit because you don't have a driving force for why you do what you do. But when I got up to the University of Tennessee, it was simple. It was simple for me to give everything I had. My freshman year, I played special teams. My sophomore season, I broke the starting lineup, had a really strong sophomore season. The summer heading into my junior year, I still remember the day where I was sitting in our film room. I was watching film on the California Bears. My defensive backs coach, Larry Slade, came in the room. He said, Inky, I got some good news for you. I dropped the clicker. I said, what is it? He said, man, you're a projected top 30 draft pick, son. He said, all you have to do is play the next 10 football games. You're an automatic multimillionaire. I went out of the room. I called my mother and my grandmother on the 3-way. I said, after this season, there will be no more struggle. I said, we would never miss another meal. I said, we would never experience another Christmas where we had to stand on the side of the curb and just be grateful. And I hung it up. First football game, I went out, played great, got an interception, shut Cal down. Second game, we played against Air Force, got late in the game, 4th quarter. Guy dropped back, he threw the ball to a receiver coming down my sideline. Me and the guy, we went head on. As soon as I hit the guy, I felt as if every breath in my body left. Body went completely limp, fell to the ground, I blacked out. Never happened to me. When my eyes open, I'll never forget, my teammates ran over, they said, Ink, get up, let's go. I said, I can't. I said, I can't move. He said, what do you mean you can't move? You're our lockdown corner, man, we need you, let's go. I said, I know, man, but this time I can't move. I flipped my head up to the sky, I said, God, I said, surely nothing is happening in this moment that can alter my life. They got me over to the hospital. They took me back. They ran CAT scans. They brought me back into my room. And all in a 15-second time frame, the doctor came running in from the opposite side. He said, hey, get in here. We got to rush this guy back to emergency surgery. He's about to die. I said, what? He said, son, you have busted up subclavian artery in your chest. You're bleeding internally. We have to rush you back, take the main vein out of your left leg, plug it into your chest in order to save your life. When I opened my eyes from recovery, the same doctor was over me. He said, son, has some good news and some bad news for you. I said, you got some bad news for me? I have to tell him I was about to die. I'm still alive. How bad can it get? I'm still here. He said, the good news is we saved your life. I said, thank you, sir. He said, the bad news is, Ink, you have nerve damage in your right shoulder. I said, okay, cool. He said, but son, it's a strong possibility that you probably can never play the game of football again in your life. I said, no way. I said, no disrespect to you, doc, but I've been working for this ever since I was 7 years old. I said, no disrespect to you, doc, but you wasn't in the park with me and my mother when I was 7 years old and she was sitting in that Buick Regal. She got done working at Wendy's. No disrespect to you, doc, but you didn't come up in that 2-bedroom home, 14 people sleeping on the floor. No disrespect to you, doc, but you didn't miss those meals and stay focused and never made an excuse. I never cheated. I never cheated. Like my conscience still until this day won't let me, like I can't cheat. I can't look myself in the mirror and say, Ink, you did a good job knowing that I cheated. I can't cheat. One of the greatest pieces of advice that my mother gave me was this: son, whenever you start, you make sure you finish. And the problem with the world today, people get involved with things, and if they don't like a certain person, if they don't like the process, if it's not what they thought it was, they quit. And what they don't understand about quitting becomes a habit that doesn't just affect you. Later on in life, when you get a wife and you get some kids or you get a family, it's going to come back to haunt you, and it will one day affect them. That is why I tell you the process is more important than the product. It's not even about the outcome for me. It's about, can you take pride in what you do as an individual, and every night when you look in the mirror, knowing that you gave everything you had to it. And we have to get to the point where we're willing to impose our will on certain things. Impose your will on it. My life totally changed. And they gave me an opportunity to stop. And most people, when you give them an opportunity to stop while they're chasing something, they take advantage of it because they feel as if, man, why did this have to happen to me? I felt as if, why not me? This is the perfect opportunity to use this to be a blessing to somebody else. And you know what? It's not even about me, to be truthful. It's not even about me. Now it's about repaying the people that invested in me and saw something in me when I couldn't see it in myself. At a certain point in life, it can't just be about you. And the moment that we understand that, and every day we wake up, we understand that life is a blessing and life is a gift. And if you were to check out today, how would you want to be remembered? It's bigger than you. And no money doesn't have to be attached to it. It's about learning to work from the inside out in life and not from the outside in. When you work from the inside out in life, you understand your why, you understand your how, and you understand your what.
What's up? What's up? What's up, family? Grand Rising. Yes, 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 we are here. Big, big smiles. Yes, I am so blessed, so excited to be here. Take the time real quick, guys, and let everybody know that Mornings with Nano is live. Every time I watch that video, I get so emotional, man. I get very, very emotional. I literally tear up every single time because I relate a lot with his story. I relate so much with his story, and to hear it again, it kind of puts me back in those moments, and I get super emotional hearing Inky Johnson's story. I highly recommend it. His name is Inky Johnson, and it's just a lot of powerful stuff, man. A lot of powerful stuff, and I remember hearing his story for the first time, and his story was mad powerful. I was like, man, that's amazing, right? And I'm just super excited to, know him and be able to hear his story, because it really, really is powerful. But yo, man, I remember hearing that story for the first time, bro. I was crying like I was a little kid because of how powerful it was. Because I related so much. It was more because of the relation and the moment that it took me to, which was awesome. So good stuff. I highly recommend him. He's awesome. Inky Johnson. He's phenomenal, and just a great person to listen to, and just good stuff all the way around. But yeah, I was crying. I was crying as I heard. I was like, it was like, damn, bro. It just brought back so much memories, and I had a few tears in my eyes right before I jumped on the call. But it was dope. It's dope. It's dope because it just reminds you, it just reminds you where you come from, how far you've come, who you do it for. Just one of those reminders, like, you just can't quit. You just can't quit no matter what happens. He said it. He said there's going to be opportunities that, you have that are going to be there for that are there to help you quit, and a lot of people take those opportunities and they quit. People quit, and I remember all those days where I wanted to quit. I remember those days where it got hard and opportunities came up where most people in their position, in my position, would have quit. But like he said, like his mom told him, Inky, whatever you start, you finish. Whatever you start, you finish. I started this. I will make sure we finish this. There's no quitting. There's no in between. There's no plan B. There's no plan C. This is all we got. That's how I treat it. That's how I treat it. This is all we got. So that's my mindset. I run it up. I'm excited. Good chapter. Did anybody go ahead and read some of the case stories that we had? Because we're on chapter 23. And like I told you guys, today was one of those chapters that we probably won't be able to do the whole chapter together. We'll probably have to pick a few of the stories and read it from there. So that's what I did. Yesterday on my plane ride from Vegas to Arizona, I just read the whole chapter, and I picked out some of the case stories that we can use to talk about, and maybe we can get into chapter 24 right away and run through it just so you guys can see some of the case stories. But what I would recommend is for everybody to do it on their own. But before we do so, let's get into some gratitude. What is one thing that everyone is grateful for this morning? Type it in the chat box so we can get right into the call. Let's express our gratitude. Let's open up the floor. Let's open up the room a little bit. Let's spread that word one last time and let everybody know that Mornings with Nano is live. Let me just go right here. Let me just put this on my there we go. Okay. I'm grateful for God. I'm grateful for my health, my family, my mom, my dad, my little brother, my goddaughter, Dadiana. I'm extremely grateful for, my team, the leaders within my organization. I'm grateful for the whole Mornings with Nano family. I'm grateful for Katie. I'm grateful for the books that I get to read on a day-to-day basis. I'm grateful for my brother Darwin. I'm actually at his house right now. Beautiful. Look at this view, guys. I don't know if you guys have ever been to Arizona, but I love Arizona. I don't know if you guys can see it. The mountains in the back. It's a nice view over here. Super dope. It's already about to be 6:30 here. Sun is rising, so it's pretty nice out here. But I'm grateful for so much. There's always so much to be grateful for. And life is just so beautiful. Life is just so great. And the fact that we get to wake up every morning and do these calls and become a family and learn so much, it just makes me extremely, extremely thankful, fam. So let's get right into the book. Let me go live on IG for the familia. I know that there's people like, yo, where we at, bro? I know people are loving this. A lot of people have really, really started tapping in with this book. And I'm probably going to do my best to get, I'm going to see if I can get my brother Matt Gribby to jump on towards the end of it so he could drop some value for us for sure. All right, dope. There we go. All right, awesome. So today we are Power of Awareness, chapter 23. Okay, that's where we're at. Power of Awareness, chapter 23. Okay, that's where we're at. Chapter 23, Power of Awareness. All right. So let's get right into this. I'm excited, I'm blessed, and I'm looking forward to it. So, as you guys know, we've been reading this book, The Power of Awareness. Reading chapter 12 every day is life-changing. I told you, it is very life-changing. We're on chapter 23 for case histories. And like I told you guys in the past, we probably won't be able to read every single case history. It's a pretty long chapter. If you read every case history, it's about 20 pages. It won't give us time to cover every single one in the book, in the chapter, but I did highlight the most powerful ones that I believe we should cover. And honestly, to be real, there was a pretty good amount. Like, this one was very powerful for me. There's about 8 case histories. And I really like the last one. The one with the man and his wife. That one was really, really good. Let me see. Which one should we do first? They're really, well, we could do the first one. The first one was very powerful too, and it really helps because it's super simple. I'm gonna read the first one at first, so you guys can have an idea of it. Now, what is chapter 23? Chapter 23 is basically, stories along the journey of the author, where the law of assumption was used and it was applied and it brought the results. So that's what it is, simply, right? That's what this chapter is about. So he uses certain stories that happened in his life or things that he knows of people that happened in their life where it was possible. All right. So I'm going to read right through it. And I just want you guys to just hear the story. If you haven't read it already, great. If you did, then you're already going to hear it for a second time and you might be able to, pick it up. But I'll read it from the top of page 20 of page 81, Case Histories, chapter 23. And I just want you guys to hear this out, right? So he said, it would be extremely helpful at this point to cite a number of specific examples of the successful application of this law. Actual case histories are given. In each of these, the problem is clearly defined, and the way the imagination was used to attain the required state of consciousness is fully described. In each of these instances, the author of this book was either personally concerned or was told the facts by the person involved. Okay, so now you guys know it was either the author was personally concerned and involved in it, or he knew it because the person told him. Now, like he said, in each of these case history, there was a problem that was clearly defined. Okay, and then the way that a person used their imagination to require that state of consciousness is fully described. So let's talk about the first one. All right, the very first one is very powerful. See the message behind it. All right, he said, this is a story with every detail of which I am personally familiar. In the spring of 1943, a recently drafted soldier was stationed in a large army camp in Louisiana. He was intensely eager to get out of the army, but only in an entirely honorable way. Okay. I want you guys to think of this right here. If you're someone who wants to leave your job, I want you to think of this story as if you're somebody who wants to leave your job. All right. So think of it from the perspective that you want to leave your job. All right. So this person wants to leave an army camp. Think of it like if it was you wanting to leave your job. And now listen to the story the same way. Okay. So he wanted to leave in an honorable way. All right. Listen to this. The only way he could do this was to apply for a discharge. The application then required the approval of his commanding officer to become effective. Based on Army regulations, the decisions of the commanding officer was final and could not be appealed. The soldier, following all the necessary procedure, applied for the discharge. Within 4 hours, his application was returned, marked disapproved. Now think about this. Listen to the story again. Right? The only way he could get out in an honorable way was through a discharge. And he said that once the commanding officer, made a decision, it was final and could not be appealed. So if he said no, it was no. That's it. There's no way around it. There's not, let me do it again. Let me try another time. It cannot be appealed. So stick with me right here. All right. Convinced he could not appeal the decision to any higher authority, military or civilian, he turned within to his own consciousness, determined to rely on the law of assumption. The soldier realized that his consciousness was the only reality, that this particular state of consciousness determined the events he would encounter. That night, in the interval between getting into bed and falling asleep, he concentrated on consciously using the law of assumption. In imagination, he felt himself to be in his own apartment in New York City. He visualized his apartment. That is, in his mind's eye, he actually saw his own apartment, mentally picturing each of the familiar rooms with all the furnishing vividly. So think about it. This person wants to leave the army, okay? And right before he's going to bed, he's not imagining himself going into the bed at the army camp. He's imagining going into bed into his house. He's imagining what his room looks like, what his house looks like, the furniture, okay? Stick with me here. Right? He says that night, in the interval between getting into bed and falling asleep, he concentrated on consciously using the law of assumption. Okay, so I read this already. In the rooms furnishly vividly, right? With this picture clearly visualized, I'm on the bottom of page 82, that last chapter. With this picture clearly visualized and lying flat on his back, he completely relaxed physically. In this way, he induced a state bordering on sleep, at the same time retaining control of the direction of his attention. When his body was completely immobilized, he assumed that he was in his own room and he felt himself to be lying in his own bed. A very different feeling from that of lying on an army cot. In imagination, he rose from the bed, walked from room to room, touching various pieces of furniture. He then went to the window and, with his hands resting on the windowsill, looked out on the street which his apartment faced. So vivid was all this in his imagination that he saw in detail the pavement, the railings, the trees, and the familiar red brick of the building on the opposite side of the street. He then returned to his bed. He felt himself drifting off to sleep. He knew that what was most important in the successful use of the law, at the actual point of falling asleep, his consciousness be filled with the assumptions that he was already what he wanted to be. All right, make sure you guys highlight that. He knew that it was most important in the successful use of the law that at the actual point of falling asleep, his consciousness be filled with the assumption that he already was what he wanted to be. All that he did in imagination was based on the assumption that he was no longer in the army. Remember, you're no longer in that job if you really want to leave that job. He was no longer in that job. Night after night, you enacted that drama. The soldier enacted that drama. You enact that drama that you don't want to be in your job, right? Night after night, in imagination, he felt himself honorably discharged, back in his home, seeing all the familiar surroundings and falling asleep in his own bed. This continued for 8 nights. For 8 days, his objective experience continued to be directly opposite to his subjective experience. For 8 days, his objective experience continued to be directly opposite to his subjective experience in consciousness each night. See how powerful this is? We've talked about this before. If you've been on every call and you've been reading this book, that line hits a little different. You understand that line on a different level than most will. Okay? Right? Before going to sleep. On the 9th day, orders came through from battalion headquarters for the soldier to fill out a new application for his discharge. Shortly after this one was done, he was ordered to report to the colonel's office. All right. During the discussion, the colonel asked him if he was still desirous of getting out of the army. Upon receiving an affirmative reply, the colonel said that he personally disagreed, and while he had strong objections to approving of the discharge, he had decided to overlook these objections and to approve it. Within a few hours, the application was approved, and the soldier, now a civilian, was on a train bound for home. Okay. Now, what did he do every day? Right? Every day, think about it. He applied for a discharge. He was disapproved, okay, with no opportunity to appeal. So instead of allowing that to discourage him, okay, what he did was He said, I'm going to use the law of assumption to get me out of this situation. He said, this is the only thing now that'll help me get out of the situation that I'm currently in right now. So every night before he went to bed, he made a plan, right? Every night before I go to bed, I'm going to lay in bed, all right? And I'm going to see myself laying in my bed back at home. I'm going to see myself, all right, at my house, looking out my window, using my bathroom, touching my furniture, visualizing it to the T every single day, right before you go to bed. Now, it only took him 9 days to do it. I'm not saying it's going to take you the same amount of time. It might take you 2 weeks. It might take you a month. It might take you 3 months. It might take you a year. Remember what I said yesterday. We do it until it happens, until it shows up, until you quit that job, until it shows up in your reality, right? Can everybody put in the chat box until, right? Until it happens, right? Can you guys put that in the chat box for me? Until, right? It's until it happens, right? So if you're someone who's on this call, all right, and you want to quit your job, for example, and I'm using this as an example because I know there's a lot of people here that don't like their jobs, that are not passionate about their jobs, that the only reason you guys work the job is because of the simple fact that it helps you pay the bills. You know, it helps you provide food and shelter for your family. And, you know, you need the money. You know, you need the money. But I know that it's not what you're passionate about. I know that it's not what you want to do for the rest of your life. And some of you guys may be passionate about your job, and that's okay. I'm talking to my people that don't like their jobs, because at the end of the day, 85% of people in the world don't like what they do. These are real facts. 85% of people do not like their jobs and are not passionate about what they do. They're just doing it to do it. Okay. So if a lot of us on this call have a job and your goal is to get out that job, well, what would you be doing if that job was not a thing? Okay, that's the first question you got to ask yourself. What would you be doing? Would you be working on your business full time? Would you be working on your network marketing business full time? Would you start working from home? Like, what are you going to be doing if it's not at the job? Okay, so I'm asking you guys now in the chat box, if one or two people can answer, what would you be doing? All right, what would you be doing if you wasn't working a job? Right? Let's see. Somebody said I would be doing the business and trading and impacting. I would be doing my nail business. Okay. I would be running my own clothing line. I'd be trading, traveling. Let's use the nail business, for example. Right? So we have the nail business. Okay. Her name is Lena, if I'm not mistaken. Okay. Let's use Lena as an example. Lena wants to be working on her business full time. She wants to start building her nail business, but she currently has a job, right? Lena has a job right now. So Lena has a job, but she would rather be working on her nail business, okay, full time. So what Lena has to do now is every night before she goes to sleep, okay, instead of going to sleep and just going to sleep like she regularly does, before she goes to sleep now, she has to go in to sleep with an intention, with an objective. Okay. Her goal right before she goes to bed is to visualize herself building her nail business. Okay. She's no longer working that job. Okay. She's no longer working that job in her imagination. All right. So instead of her waking up, right, instead of her waking up to go to job, to go to work, right, what I would do, Lena, if I was you, is I would visualize yourself like, all right, you're in bed, obviously, but instead of waking up to go to work like you're usually doing, I want you to visualize you waking up to go to work on your nail business. So in your visualization, the way you want to visualize it is waking up, getting out of bed, happy, excited. Yes, I'm so grateful I get to work on my nail business. Go see yourself working on your nail business. See yourself making the investments that you need to make for your nail business. See your happy clients. See the good equipment. See all of the things that are required in order for you to run a successful nail business. Like, get very specific with it. I've never ran a nail business, so I'm not sure how it works, but you can get more detailed with it. You can find, okay, I need this certain kind of equipment. I want my office to look like this. I'm going to have these kind of clients. On social media, I'm going to have these many followers. The reviews for my nail business is going to be 5 stars, the best of the best. And you got to see yourself every single day before you go to bed in the accomplishment of the feeling of the wish fulfilled. Because if we go back to the story, look, what did he say? I highlighted it. He said he knew, not even that. Let's go to the top of page 83, right? At the top of page 83, it says, in imagination, he rose from the bed. He walked from room to room, touching various pieces of furniture. He then went to the window and with his hand resting on the sill, looked out on the street which his apartment faced. So vivid all this in his imagination that he saw in detail the pavement, the railings, the trees, the familiar red brick of the building on the opposite side of the street. So you have to really get detailed with it. The equipment that you're using, the nails that you're gonna be, using for your clients, everything has to be extremely, extremely detailed, right? And what I highlighted there was he knew that it was most important in the successful use of the law that at the actual point of him of falling asleep, his consciousness be filled with the assumption that he already was what he wanted to be. So every day before you go to bed, Lena, you want to do this until it becomes a reality, until it happens. You should set an alarm, right? You should set an alarm right now. Let's say you go to bed at 11 o'clock every night. You should set an alarm every day to remind you around 10:50 p.m. to remind you to do your visualization. If I were you, celebrity nail artist, whatever it is you want to do, right? I heard a lot of people in here, they want to trade, they want to travel. Yo, see yourself taking the trades, see yourself winning trades, see yourself entering standard lot sizes, 2 lot sizes, making $1,000 a week, $2,000 a week trading. See yourself traveling and trading on the beach in Tulum somewhere, in Cancun, in Costa Rica. See yourself making hundreds and thousands of dollars, helping others do the same. Really do this every single night. See yourself withdrawing, right? See yourself. This is the real key right here. This is the real work that you guys aren't doing. This is the real work that you guys are not doing right here. Because let me show you guys something really quick. So when Matt bought me the Power of Awareness book, he bought me this book, but then he also bought me this book. Okay. The Feeling is a Secret. All right. And it's a short read. It's literally only, the book is literally like 30 pages, I think. 33 pages. Right. So he bought me both of these books together. Okay. He gave them to me. He said, read these books every day. Keep them with you at all time. Travel with them at all time. Now, there's a whole chapter that's dedicated to sleep. A whole chapter dedicated for sleep. Now, I want you guys to hear this real quick. Listen to this. I'll probably read to you guys a little bit of the chapter so you guys can hear it and just understand it, right? He said, sleep, the life that occupies 1/3 of your stay on earth, is the natural door into the subconscious. So it is with sleep that we are now concerned. The conscious 2/3 of our life on earth is measured by the degree of attention we give sleep. Our understanding of and delight in what we sleep has to bestow will cause us night after night to set out for it as though we were keeping an appointment with our lover. In a dream, in a vision of the night, when deep sleep falleth upon man, and slumbering upon the bed, then he opened the ears of man and sealeth their instruction. He said, it is in sleep and in prayer, a state akin to sleep, that man enters the subconscious to make his impressions and receive his instructions. In these states, the conscious and the subconscious are creatively joined. The male and female become one flesh. Sleep is the time when the male or conscious mind turns from the world of sense to seek its lover of the subconscious self. Okay, so the way he describes sleep, all right, and conscious, think of the conscious as the male and think of the subconscious as the female. Okay, and every night before you go to bed, you need to come together. You need to interact with each other, right? It's like you and your significant other, you and your boyfriend and your girlfriend. All right. If you guys live together every night, you guys come to bed together, all right, and you guys cuddle, you guys do your thing, whatever it is, right? But you guys come together. Now, every night before you go to bed, you got to do this. You got to do this. Before you go to bed every night, you got to see yourself in the accomplishment and the feeling of the wish fulfilled. What is it that you guys want? What does each and every single one of you want in your life? Before you go to bed, lay in bed and see yourself in the accomplishment of it every night. And what I'm saying is, once you do this, you're going right to bed. So I'm not gonna visualize myself doing, traveling the world, making money, all of this stuff, and then after that, get on my phone and check Instagram. No, you're gonna put your phone down. That's it. That's the last Instagram. That's the last post. That's the last scroll. That's it. You're gonna put your phone down away from you, and you're gonna do this right before you go to bed. Every single day. It's easy to do. Think about it. How easy is it for you to literally lay down right before you go to bed, not use your phone, and just see yourself in the accomplishment of your goal? This is easy to do, but it's easy also not to do. Okay? It's easy to do, but it's also easy not to do. And guys, I did this. Guys, I promise you, I probably did this for over a year. And it changed my life for real. I still do it to this day. I honestly, reading this book again reminded me that I have been slacking on it a little bit. Because yes, I do it in the mornings, I do it during my visualizations, I do it at the beach, but I've been forgetting to do it at night sometimes. I do it sometimes before I go to bed, but not all the time. It has to be something that we do consistently. All right. He said it. He did it every single night. Okay. So if I'm willing to do it every morning, I got to be able to do it every night as well. But I remember these books were given to me summer of 2019. When these books were given to me, I was making $2,000 a month when those books were given to me. After I was done reading these two books and I applied the principles, three to 4 months later, I was making $12,000 a month. Seriously. No cap. I did it every night. I remember, because I was very naive to the information at the time. I was just like, well, it says to do this, I'm going to do it. It says I got to live in the feeling of the wish fulfilled, I'm going to do it. So every night before I would go to sleep, I would see myself earning six figures. I would see myself making over $10,000 a month. I would see myself with a team of over 500 people. I would see the flyer being dropped all over Instagram. I would see the back office. I would see this. I would see the happiness in my mom's face. I would see people, the phone calls. I created a whole scenario. I created a whole thing. I imagined the email, right? The emails that I was getting, right? Because, I went from making $500 a week, right, to now making $2,500 every single week. So instead of me seeing the checks coming in for 500, now I was seeing the checks coming in for 2,500 every Friday. And I would see it. I would imagine myself on a Friday, walking and receiving an email saying, hey, you know, dear, dear Kevin, you have received the payment for, $2,500 from so and so and so, this and this and that. You can choose to transfer it, keep it here. And I would see the check and I would see the excitement and I would see myself helping, giving $500, $300 to my mom for the bills and helping out. Like, I would see the scenario each and every single day for 3 months. And then it happened. It really did happen. And that's the reason why I decided to read this book. Right? That's why I decided to reread this book, because when I was having this conversation with my leader Luisa, I was telling her this. I was like, yo, this was the book that got me like this. And I was breaking down like how it happened and how I did it, and the fact that I read the book, and it really, really got me involved in it. And she was like, yo, if you're gonna read the book again, you should read it together on Mornings with Nano with us, so we can feel the same thing that you felt. That's how we decided to, dedicate the whole month of April to awareness. Okay. Because of this book. All right. And this was really the book that changed my life. So I said, you know what? I've been at $10,000, $25,000 a month, but I feel like I gotta go back to the basics, bro. I gotta go back to the things that got me here. Because sometimes what we tend to do, we tend to forget what actually got us here. All right. And even though I was still very conscious of what got me here, I had forgot the basic principles. Because remember, I read this book in 2019. We're in 2022. That's 3 years ago. And remember, I told you guys the biggest mistake I made was not staying with the book, not traveling with the book each and every single day like I was told to do. I was told to read the book, and I read the book, but I didn't follow the exact instructions, right? I was told to read the book over and over and over and over and over again, so that you can keep the principles ingrained in your mind. Now, remember, every one of us, we all want different things. Some of us want money. Some of us want to rank. Some of us want to retire our family. Some of us want to quit our jobs. Some of us maybe just want to make an extra $1,000 a month. But whatever it is that you want, you can accomplish it through the law of assumption. All right. And this is very important. And that's what that case history, covered right there. All right. Now, listen to this one. There's another one right here that I really like. I love this story right here. Listen to this story. Story number 3. Okay. Listen to story number 3. This one I really like because it includes a little kid. And, I've always learned that if you want to be successful, study kids. That's what I've learned. Jim Rohn says, if you want to be successful, study kids. Study your kids. We have a lot of mothers and fathers on this call. Study kids, right? Because kids have an incredible amount of faith, curiosity. When they fall, they get back up. They ask a lot of questions. They trust. Kids are very, if you realize, guys, kids are very special, right? Yeah, the childlike enthusiasm. I already know Drew's tapped in with Jim Rohn for real. But if you really sit down and study kids, after I learned to study kids, right? I realized that kids, like Katie said in the chat, they're actually more tapped in than adults, because remember, they don't have no limits, they don't have no limitations, they don't have bad self-talk and any of that stuff, right? I can't wait to have kids, right? Because my kids, from the moment that they are in the belly, they're gonna be falling asleep to personal development. Like, we're gonna be falling asleep to them listening to Jim Rohn and like, from the belly. Seriously, from the belly, they're gonna be listening to audios, right? Falling asleep to the right frequency music. My kids are gonna know at least 4 or 5 languages. All right, they'll learn English and Spanish, but I want them to learn Portuguese. I want them to learn maybe French, right? Portuguese is probably gonna be the next language that I learn. I'm gonna commit myself to learning Portuguese. I really want to learn how to speak Portuguese, but I'm gonna really read to my kids and a lot of stuff. But let me make sure that you guys listen to the story. This is dope, right? He said story number 3 is on the top of page 88. All right. This is the story of a very unexpected result of an interview with a lady who came to consult me. Listen to this. All right. He said, one afternoon, a young grandmother, a businesswoman in New York, came to see me. She brought along her 9-year-old grandson who was visiting her from his home in Pennsylvania. In response to her question, I explained the law of assumption, describing in detail the procedure to be followed in attaining an objective. The boy sat quietly, apparently absorbed in a small toy truck, while I explained to the grandmother the method of assuming the state of consciousness that would be hers. Yeah, that would be hers, were her desire already fulfilled. I told her the story. I told her the story of the soldier in camp who each night fell asleep, imagining himself to be in his own bed in his own home. When the boy and his grandmother were leaving, he looked up at me with great excitement and said, I know what I want, and now I know how to get it. I love this story. So he looked up at Neville and said, I know what I want, and I know how to get it now. Surprised, I asked him what it was he wanted. He told me he had his heart set on a puppy. To this, the grandmother vigorously protested, telling the boy that it had been made clear repeatedly that he could not have a dog under any circumstances. But we all know kids, though. You tell them that they can't do something, and it's like telling them to do it, right? You tell kids that, oh, don't do this or don't do that, and it's like telling them to do it because they're going to do it anyways. You know what I'm saying? So, the grandmother's telling him, like, no, we've already told you multiple times that, you can't do it. And guess what? He still wants to do it. So, he said it had been told and cleared repeatedly that you cannot have any dog under any circumstances, that his father and mother will not allow it, and that the boy was too young to care for it properly. And furthermore, the father had a deep dislike for dogs. He actually hated to have one around. So think about it. All these arguments were, he said, all of these were arguments the boy passionate, desirous of having a dog refused to understand, right? He refused to understand. Like, it didn't matter how passionate his parents were about the fact that they didn't want a dog, that they hated to have one around, right? But the kid, like we always say, these kids have childlike enthusiasm. They said, you know what? It is what it is. I'm going to still do it. So look, every night, just as I am going off to sleep, I am going to pretend that I have a dog and we are going for a walk. No, said the grandmother. That is not what Mr. Neville means. This was not meant for you. You cannot have a dog. Approximately 6 weeks later, the grandmother told me what was to her an astonishing story. The boy's desire to own a dog was so intense that he had absorbed all that I had told his grandmother of how to attain one's desire. And he believed implicitly that at last he knew how to get a dog. Putting this belief into practice, for many nights, the boy imagined the dog was lying in his bed beside him. In imagination, he petted the dog, actually feeling its fur. Things like playing with the dog and taking it for a walk filled his mind. Within a few weeks, it happened. A newspaper in the city in which the boy lived organized a special program in connection with Kindness to Animals Week. All school children were requested to write an essay on why I would like to own a dog. After entries from all the schools were submitted and judged, the winner of the contest was announced. The very same boy who weeks before in my apartment in New York City had told me, "Now I know how to get a dog," was the winner. In an elaborate ceremony, which was publicized with stories and pictures in the newspaper, the boy was awarded with a beautiful collie puppy. In relating the story, the grandmother told me that if the boy had been given the money with which to buy a dog, the parents would have refused to do so and would have used it to buy a bond for the boy or put it in the savings bank for him. Furthermore, if someone had made the boy a gift of a dog, they would have refused it or given it away. But the dramatic manner in which the boy got the dog, that was the key. So that's what he's saying. He said, yo, if the boy would have got gifted the dog, they would have said, nah. If they would have given him the money for the dog, the parents would have said no, which are usually the two ways of the way he would have probably got the dog, right? It was either would have been through a gift or by someone buying him or giving him the money. But this is what they say. But the dramatic manner in which the boy got the dog, the way he won the citywide contest, the stories, the pictures in the newspaper, the pride of achievement and joy of the boy himself all combined to bring about a change of heart in the parents, and they found themselves doing what they never conceived possible. They allowed him to keep the dog. All this the grandmother explained to me, and she concluded by saying that there was one particular kind of dog in which the boy wants that the boy had set his heart to, and it was a collie. So the exact same dog that he wanted, he got it through all objections. There's you got to read in between the lines though, guys, in that story as well. You got to read in between the lines. If you think about it, all the odds were stacked against the kid. All the odds. His parents said no. His mom said no. His dad hated dogs. They didn't like to have them around. And his grandmother said no. Everybody said no. Every single person said no to him. Everyone said no to the 9-year-old. But reluctantly and still believing, he said, I'm still going to go to sleep every night and I'm going to see myself in the possession of the puppy. I'm going to pet the puppy. I'm going to play with the puppy. This puppy is going to lay here in bed with me. 6 weeks later, the kid won the puppy in a competition. And because of the germ, regardless of all the objections, the universe and God aligned the kid to win an award, a competition that allowed his parents to see through the objections that they were doing. So what is he saying? It doesn't matter how many people say no to you. It doesn't matter who doesn't believe. Look, the mom didn't believe, the dad didn't believe, and the grandmother didn't believe. They didn't want it. They rejected the kid. Most people put in that position would just accept the rejection, right? When I started my business, right, my mom didn't want me to do the business. My dad didn't want me to do the business. My friends, my co-workers, my relationship at the time, nobody wanted me to do the business. Everybody rejected me. Everybody rejected me. Everybody thought I was crazy. But I kept the vision. I said, I'm going to make 6 figures. I'm going to retire my family. I'm going to travel the world. I'm going to speak on stages all over the world. So you need to have that childlike faith. I love that story. Such a powerful story, guys. Such a powerful story. There's another good one here. I got you right now. This one is very powerful right here. We'll do two more. This one is important because I know we have people here that, maybe struggle with maybe some, health issues. This one is powerful, right? Listen to this. We're going to do case story number 6 on page 93. He said, only the most complete and intense use of the law of assumption could have produced such results in this extreme situation. Listen to this. All right. 4 years ago, a friend of our family asked that I talk with his 28-year-old son who was not expected to live. He was suffering from a rare heart disease. This disease resulted in disintegration of the organ. Long and costly medical care had been no avail. Doctors held out no hope for recovery. For a long time, the son had been confined to his bed. His body had shrunk to almost a skeleton, and he could not talk and breathe, only with great difficulty. His wife and 2 small children were home when I called, and his wife was present throughout our discussion. I started by telling him that there was only one solution to any problem, and that solution was a change of attitude. Since talking exhausted him, I asked him to nod in agreement if he understood clearly what I said, and then he agreed to do so. I highlighted the rest of this whole entire paragraph right here, just in case you guys wanted to know. I described the underlying facts underlying the law of consciousness. In fact, the law of consciousness was the only reality. I told him the way to change any condition was to change his state of consciousness concerning it. As a specific aid in helping him to assume the feeling of already being well, I suggested that in imagination he sees the doctor's face expressing incredulous amazement in finding him recovered. Contrary to all reason, from the last stages of an incurable disease, that he see him double checking his examination and hear him saying over and over, "It's a miracle, it's a miracle." He not only understood all this clearly, but he believed it implicitly. He promised that he would faithfully follow this procedure. His wife, who had been listening intently, assured me that she too would diligently use the law of assumption in her imagination in the same way as her husband. Right? The following day, I sailed for New York. All this taking place during a winter vacation in the tropics. Several months later, I received a letter saying the son had made a miraculous recovery. On my next visit, I met him in person. He was in perfect health, actively engaged in business, and thoroughly enjoying the many social activities of his friends and family. He told me that from the day I left, he never had any doubt that it would work. He described how he had faithfully followed the suggestion I had made him, and day after day had lived completely in the assumption of already being well and strong. Now, 4 years after his recovery, he is convinced that the only reason he is here today is due to the successful use of the law of assumption. Guys, this is so important right here. You know why? Because at one point in our lives, either us or somebody will experience some kind of health defect. Okay? And I know somebody personally that beat cancer because of the law of assumption. I know someone personally that beat cancer. One of my best friends, he beat testicular cancer because of the law of assumption. He would sit down at bed every night and visualize himself healthy and well. Okay? This stuff is real, guys. I'm telling you, it is real. This is how I get out of getting sick, anything. The moment I feel myself going a little bit under the weather or anything, I right away start to imagine myself being healthy and well, and my immune system being strong and fighting all diseases and all colds or anything of that magnitude. The thing that I told you guys to highlight, right? It's on page 94, right? In the middle paragraph right there, that's where all the sauce is. It says, I describe the facts underlying the law of consciousness. In fact, the consciousness was the only reality. I told them that the way to change any condition was to change his state of consciousness concerning it. So if you that's some sauce right there. All right? That is some sauce right there. I told them that the way to change any condition was to change his state of consciousness concerning it. So right now, some of you guys may be in a certain condition that you might not want to be in, whether it's a financial condition, whether it's a business condition, an emotional condition, a mental condition. The only way to change that condition is you have to change the state of consciousness concerning it. You have to change the way that you're looking at it. If you change the way you look at things, the things you look at will change. As a specific aid in helping him to assume the feeling of already being well, I suggested that in imagination, he see the doctor's face expressing incredulous amazement in finding him recovered, contrary to all reason, from the last stages of his incurable disease, and that he see him double checking in his examination and hear him saying over and over, "It's a miracle, it's a miracle." That's super key. This is so important, guys. Listen to these stories. All right, they're very, very powerful. Very powerful. All right, so we've done 3 stories. I think we have time. This is the last one I'm going to do because I can relate with it. It's the last one, number 8. All right. And this one is powerful for my people that are in a relationship. Okay, listen to this. The man and wife in this story have attended my lectures for a number of years. It is an interesting illustration of the conscious use of this law by 2 people concentrating on the same objective as at one time. All right. So this man and wife were exceptionally devoted people. Right? This man and wife were exceptionally devoted. This man and wife were an exceptionally devoted couple. Their life was completely happy and entirely free from any problems or frustrations. For some time, they had planned to move into a larger apartment. The more they thought about it, the more they realized that they had their hearts set on was a beautiful penthouse. In discussing it together, the husband explained that he wanted one with a huge window looking out on a magnificent view. The wife said she would like to have one. She would like to have one side of the walls mirrored from top to bottom. They both wanted to have a wood burning fireplace. It was a must that the apartment be in New York City. For months, they had searched for just an apartment in vain. In fact, the situation in the city was such that securing, sorry, in the city was such that the securing of any apartment was almost an impossibility. An impossibility. They were so scarce that not only were the waiting list for them, but all sorts of special deals, including premiums, the buying of furniture, etc., were involved. New apartments were being leased for were being leased long before they were completed, many being rented from the blueprints of the building. Early in the spring, after months of fruitless seeking, they finally located one which they seriously considered. It was a penthouse apartment building just being completed on Upper Fifth Avenue facing Central Park. That's kind of one that I want to. I want one overlooking Central Park. That's one of my dreams as well, right? It had one serious drawback. Being a new building, it was not subject to rent control, and the couple felt that yearly rental was exorbitant. Exuberant. In fact, it was several thousands dollars a year more than they had considered paying. During the spring months of March and April, they continued looking at various penthouses throughout the city, but they always came back to this one. Finally, they decided to increase the amount they would pay substantially and made a proposition which the agent for the building agreed to forward to owners for consideration. It was at this point, without discussing it with each other, each determined to apply the law of assumption. It was not until later that each learned what the other had done. Night after night, they both fell asleep in imagination in the apartment they were considering. The husband, lying with his eyes closed, would imagine that his bedroom windows were overlooking the park, which was Central Park. He would imagine going to the window the first thing in the morning and enjoying the view. He felt himself sitting on the terrace overlooking the park, having cocktails with his wife and friends, and all thoroughly enjoying it. He filled his mind with actually feeling himself in the penthouse on the terrace. During all this time, unknown to him, his wife was doing the same thing. Several weeks went by without any decision on the part of the owners, but they continued to imagine as they fell asleep each night that they were actually sleeping in the penthouse. One day, to their complete surprise, one of the employees in the apartment building in which they lived told them that the penthouse there was vacant. They were astonished because theirs was one of the most desirable buildings in the city with a perfect location right on Central Park. They knew there was a long waiting list for people trying to get an apartment in their building. The fact that a penthouse had unexpectedly become available was kept quiet by the management because they were not in a position to consider any applicants for it. Upon learning that it was vacant, this couple immediately made a request that it be rented to them, only to be told that this was impossible. The fact was that not only were there several people on a waiting list for a penthouse in the building, but it was actually promised to one family. Despite this, the couple had a series of meetings with the management, at the conclusion of which the apartment was theirs. The building being subject to rent control, their rental was just about what they had planned to pay when they first started looking for a penthouse. The location, the apartment itself, the large terrace surrounding it on the southwest and north was beyond all their expectation. And in the living room on one side is a giant window 15 by 8 feet with a magnificent view of Central Park. One wall was mirrored from floor to ceiling, and there is a wood burning fireplace. So powerful. I remember this. The reason why I related to that story a lot was because I did the same thing with my penthouse in Miami. The exact same thing. I visualized myself living on the beach. I visualized myself going up in my elevator to an apartment so I visualized my elevator opening up to my penthouse. It's how it happens nowadays. I have my own elevator that opens up right to my apartment right there. Boom. And I would visualize myself walking into my apartment and seeing the nice, beautiful view on the water, on the ocean, overlooking the city. I would go to the right. I would turn to the right. I would go into my kitchen. I would open up the refrigerator. I would open up the view. I would go downstairs to the beach. I would feel my feet in the sand, visualizing in the ocean. Like as I'm speaking to you guys, I'm thinking about it. And it happened exactly how I would visualize it. And similar to the story, guys, similar to the story, we went through a lot of rejection. We went through so much rejection to get that apartment. Some of you guys don't even know how much. I remember I was living out here in Arizona for 8 months. I moved out of my apartment in Arizona here in March of 2021. I moved out last year, March of 2021. I lived in Airbnbs for 3 months. So from March all the way till June, I was living Airbnb to Airbnb, literally. And when I'm telling you guys, we looked at so many places. We got denied. We ended up getting a spot. And then last minute, they took us out of it because for whatever reason, we weren't there the day that we were supposed to be there. Then we got another spot, but they said that they needed all of us there at the same time to take a look at the spot. We got this other spot. We ended up looking at so many spots. People fell out. It was supposed to be 3 people. And then one of the guys fell out. He got so frustrated with the situation that was happening. He said, bro, just you guys get it. So now it was just me and my brother Fads. And then me and Fads were looking. We couldn't find anything. And then, one of our business partners came in and, did the thing, did everything. And she was the one that ended up finding a spot for us. And it ended up all working out. And then when we come and visit the spot and I realize what the spot is, I'm like, bro, this is what I've been visualizing this whole entire time. This whole time, God was rejecting all these spots that we got to lead me to the one that I always wanted, which was this one, the one on the beach, overlooking the ocean, 50 floors up with the elevator that opens up to my house, the way I used to visualize it every single time. Rejection is redirection. It was redirecting me to it. And sometimes it happens like that. Look, remember, before you get what you want, you're going to be challenged. Notice how every single story that I mentioned, in every single story, they mentioned the challenge that they faced before they got what they want, but they also mentioned the time. You realize the little kid waited like 6 weeks, right? The kid with the heart disease, mumps, these people, mumps, the guy that wanted to leave the army 8 days, right? Realize everything else that we see here. You got to keep the faith at all time, guys. And these case histories are great. We went over 4 of them. So what I would recommend, guys, is go over the rest of them. Okay. Tomorrow we have failure, chapter 24, and chapter 25 is faith. Oof, 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 oof. 2 really, really, really good chapters. 2 of my favorite chapters of all time in a book are chapter 24 and 25. And it's perfect because it's Friday tomorrow. So we're going to go over chapter 24 and 25 tomorrow, failure and faith tomorrow, the double F's tomorrow. Do not miss tomorrow. Okay? Do not miss tomorrow. I'm telling you, do not miss it. All right? So that right there is what I wanted to cover today. I wanted to cover some of the case histories that show how, the law of assumption and everything works. I'm so proud of us, guys. We just finished, we're 100 pages in. We only have 3 chapters left. We have we have 4 chapters left, 24, 25, 26, 27. 4 chapters left. Now, I won't forget IG Live. Don't worry. But whatever you do tomorrow, do not miss tomorrow's call. All right, guys, tomorrow's call will be extremely, extremely powerful. and you guys are going to be able to learn a lot from tomorrow's call. But today was more of a case history to give you guys examples of a couple who, visualized themselves in a penthouse and got it. A little kid who visualized wanting himself a puppy and he got it. A guy who visualized himself getting out of the army and he got it. An individual who saw himself with a heart disease and saw himself fully healthy and he got it. Guys, this is where it's at right here. This is the information that you need to get yourself to the next level. I promise you. Read this information. Read in between the lines. Look for the value in these things. Realize how failure was involved. All right. Realize how they got rejected by people. Realize how it all took time. Realize how they talked about doing it every single night. Like I said, read in between the lines. Like, yes, that's the message, but look for the messages in the messages, because that's the key. All right. So with that being said, that wraps up today's call. If you guys got value from today's call, put some 333s in the chat box. Like this video if you got value from this as well. Amazing, amazing, amazing. All right, guys. So quick prayer and we will end it right there. Quick prayer. Everybody bow your heads and let's pray. Father God, thank you so much for blessing us with this beautiful, abundant day. We are so thankful to be able to wake up today. Anytime that we wake up, we know that you're not done working on us, and we are just so thankful. Today, we just continue to learn amazing stories where, faith was involved, rejection was involved, staying consistent was involved. And we're understanding this law a lot deeper than we did when we first started this. And we just want to thank you so much for introducing us to the law of assumption, for giving us examples of where you were there and allowed these things to happen. Because we know in all those stories, from the story of the kid, from the story of the guy trying to leave, the army and the disease and everything, all of those things were only possible because you were present in those stories. And we know that at the end of the day, we got to keep the faith heavy, heavy, heavy on you, God. And we believe in you so much. We believe in everything that you're doing for us and the purpose that you've given us to walk on this earth and continue to serve our purpose. And that's what it's all about. And we are just so thankful each and every day that you've given us the opportunity to do so. So continue to give us the strength that we need to serve our purpose. Continue to give us the wisdom that we need to help others. Continue to give us the determination and everything that is required of us, from our health all the way down to our consistency, to be able to go out there and serve this purpose. God, we are so thankful to have a leader like you in our life, leading the way for us. Continue to guide us, continue to show us the way, keep our families healthy. Whoever is going through any challenging times right now, God, put your hand over them and guide them, and put your healing hand over anyone who needs any healing as well. Because right now we need our family locked in. Everybody's excited. Everybody is blessed. Everybody is ready to receive. And we will live in the assumption that we already have what it is that we want to be, Father. So we thank you so much for all this wisdom. We thank you so much for the examples that you're giving us on a day-to-day basis. Let's go out there and have a great day filled with abundance and filled with blessings. We love you so much, and we appreciate you so much. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen. 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 All right, guys. So with that being said, that wraps up today's call. I hope all of you guys have a blessed rest of your days. And I'll see you guys back here tomorrow for another episode of Mornings with Nano. We will be going over chapter 24 and 25. Whatever you do, do not miss tomorrow's call. Tomorrow's call is going to be super dope. We go live at 9 a.m. Eastern, 6 a.m. Pacific. We'll let everybody come in, get themselves set up. By 6:15, we will be starting. All right. And I'm just super excited for it. Don't forget to visualize before bed. Like this video. Subscribe to my channel if you haven't. Let's help get this channel to 10,000 subscribers. Post me on your page. Post me on your story. And let's continue to work. Let's continue to elevate. And if you haven't done your visualization, do it right after this call, fam. Love, love, love. And I appreciate y'all so much. Like the video and subscribe. And let's get it run.